What I notice sometimes is that life is literally asking of me to just slow down and trust the process a little bit more. It's asking me to not be taking so many actions. And it's almost like the universe literally shows me signs sometimes, certain things falling out of my life, certain people falling out of my life, certain situations that seem to be more chaotic. And it's almost like all of these signs are pointing to the fact that I just need to be slowing down a little bit more. But then my mind insists that I need to be taking more action. And through this process of resisting when I should have been slowing down, and then eventually realizing that I could just trust the process in those moments, and going through that process, what I realized is that in my life personally, there's a time and place to slow down, and there's a time and place to be taking action. And I can actually notice that there's a time and place for both of these energies where you're actually slowing down and you're trusting. Maybe you're in a little bit more of a feminine space, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just slowing down and recharging your batteries. And other times I'm taking more action. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you when to use either energy and when it might be better for you to actually trust the fact that it's time to slow down, that it's time to not be taking so much action, and that when you learn to trust that, you can actually build up the energy in your system to prepare for the next chapter of your life. Because if we can learn to build up the energy in our system when the universe is showing us these signs, when our own body is showing us these signs, you can prepare for the next chapter of your life, and you can be a much more powerful manifester. Your intentions are going to be much stronger when you can integrate the feminine aspect of life, which is to slow down. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you exactly how to do that. So if you're new to this channel, what I want you to do is I want you to hit that subscribe button. I want you to hit that notification bell because I do post a new video every single day. Also, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. Now, the first thing you can look out for when it comes to knowing when it's time to slow down is feeling lots of resistance in your body. If you feel a lot of resistance in your body when it comes to taking action, when it comes to working on a project that you've been working on, when it comes to reaching out to that person, when it comes to moving forward in the next direction, if you feel like there's a lot of resistance in your body, it might actually be time to slow down. Because sometimes our body is literally throwing these signs at us that maybe you need to take a nap. Sounds simple, but we don't trust that intuition. It's like, maybe you need to take a nap. Maybe you need to stop working so hard. Maybe you need to just slow down and not be working your you-know-what off 24/7. And you're going to feel a lot of resistance in your body. You're literally going to feel negative emotions pulsating through your whole body. I know for me personally, when I'm out of alignment, my solar plexus chakra, my power chakra, now this is going to sound a little bit esoteric, but my stomach region just gets completely filled with like this negative energy. It's almost like my body is telling me that it's time to not be taking so much action. Like my body is literally telling me that it's time to slow down. But then what's interesting is that in the past, and sometimes I still do this, I'm still guilty of this, when I feel this resistance in my body, it's almost like I completely go against sometimes what that feeling is telling me, and my mind has a story around why I need to keep taking action. It's like your heart is telling you to just slow down. It's even telling you at a very intuitive and emotional level that if you just slow down, things are going to be easier and you're going to be able to manifest at a much more powerful rate. But then what the mind says, the part of us that wants to control and manipulate and overthink, says, no, actually, you can't slow down because you need to keep working harder. And the more that I did that, the more that things started to work out in a way that they just did not need to work out. The more that I learned to trust when chaos started to unfold in my life, when it's almost like things just started to fall apart a little bit. It's almost like I started to feel resistance in my body when I was taking actions, when I learned to just stop taking action and raise my frequency in those moments that I know it's time to slow down, and I stopped pushing forward into the resistance, things started to work out. Now, this might sound counterintuitive, because sometimes people are like, well, wait a second, don't you need to work really hard to create success? Don't you need to push past the resistance? Pain equals growth, right? Discomfort equals growth, right? Absolutely. It is true. If there's no challenge and adversity in life, then you literally can't grow. But at the same time though, your heart is always communicating to you, and there's a deeper intelligence within us that's always telling us where sometimes we just don't need to be pushing that hard. It's the direction that I believe the world is headed in right now. I believe we're headed towards a state of consciousness collectively where actually we don't need to be in this overly masculine energy any longer. Now, there's a time and place for that energy, but I also think that the more that we can learn to tap into the universal intelligence that is within all of us, the interconnectedness of all things, that same universal intelligence that is within you is also within me. That universal intelligence sometimes is literally communicating to you through your emotions, and it's going to create an emotion in your body. Sounds crazy, but just that you've probably had these intuitive hits before that are telling you not to do something. You do it anyways, and then you see how things just don't work out. And it's almost like you can just notice, like, if I just listen to my intuition, maybe that situation wouldn't have happened in that negative way. And the more that I can learn to not push towards the resistance, where I actually feel in my body and my intuition that it's my intuition telling me not to push, things just tend to work out a lot better. Now, the second thing you can look out for when it comes to how to trust when it's time to slow down is a lack of joy. Like, if you're not feeling, joy with what you're doing, then what's even the point? Like, the point of life is to feel joy, isn't it? Like, why else are we here? Aren't we here to feel joy? Aren't we here to experience the flow of life and to enjoy life as it unfolds? Now, don't get me wrong. I consider myself to be a masculine individual to some degrees, which that word can be completely misconstrued in society. The way that I see that word is just another word to represent the push of life. There's the yin and there's the yang. The yin is like pushing. I believe yin is the masculine. I think yang is the feminine. I don't remember if I'm switching those around and confusing them. But it's a push. It's a masculine energy. And this masculine energy is super interesting because there's a time and place for it. But like I said, if there's a lack of joy in what you're doing, then maybe it's time to realign yourself. Maybe it's time to not be doing the same thing that you've been doing, because the definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and over and expect a different result. And sometimes we are conditioned to believe that if we just push a little bit harder, that we're gonna get to the end goal and we're gonna feel much more joy. But then we push harder and then we feel less joy. And then we think that if we just push a little bit harder, there's gonna be the joy at the end of that ride. The joy is gonna come afterwards once I just push a little bit harder. And then we keep pushing and we keep pushing and we keep pushing. And then what happens? You're burned out. You've burned yourself out to the end. And now you don't feel joy, you feel even worse than when you started. Where if you just took a day off and you recharged your batteries, you would have been in a much better position. You would have been in a much better, had you just slowed down and actually collected your energy a little bit more, you built up the energy in your system and you actually slowed down a little bit, you would have been in a much better place to take those actions. And interestingly enough, you would have had a more powerful manifestation ability. This is what a lot of people, I think, don't necessarily see, is that when you can have an integrated feminine energy where you learn to enjoy the flow and the joy of the present moment, what's going to happen is that you're actually going to have a much more powerful container to be even more masculine than you otherwise would have been. So you cannot separate the masculine and the feminine. If there is a lack of joy in the actions that you're taking, then I would invite you to ask yourself, what's that really about? What's that about? Why do we feel this need to take so much action in society to get some results, but then we lose the joy of the moment? That's an issue. Wouldn't you say there's an issue if you're taking actions to get to some feeling of joy one day in the future? That's an issue to me. I think that's a serious issue. I think that's a dysfunction of the ego. And I think that we've normalized in society that we need to work hard to get to the joy one day in the future. And I think that if you can trust in your intuition and say, wait a second, if I don't feel joy right now, there's something wrong, this can actually lead you to have a much more enjoyable experience of life. And also, you're going to be a much more powerful container to manifest the things you truly desire. Now, the third thing you can look out for to trust when it's time to slow down, this is going to be the biggest one. So if you made it this far in the video, congratulations, because this is the most important point, which I should have done. I should have said that at the beginning of the video because it would have made more people stay till the end, but that's okay. So basically, what you want to do is notice when life is falling apart. You got to realize life is a continual back and forth of expansion and then contraction. It's you expand, you become more expansive, and then eventually what happens is that expansion then contracts back into itself. And so that's what life is. You expand, you grow, you become certain things, and then actually your consciousness turns back inwards into itself, and then you learn through that process of expansion and contraction. That's the play of consciousness. You go into yourself, and then you blow out and you push, right? You pull back into yourself. It's like I go into meditation, I build up my energies, and then what I do is I expel that energy back out into the world. But what's going to happen is sometimes in the process of you contracting, not like in a negative way, but it's like you're just going back into your true self, you'll notice that literally certain things that you've been building up, the things that you know, may start to just fall away. Maybe if you have business, maybe you'll just randomly lose a couple of clients or something. Or that's what happened to me. I lost a couple clients, and it's oh my gosh, why is this happening? And it's no, actually, it was preparing me for the next stage of my life. You see, when you're creating a reorder, because there's order and there's chaos in life, right? And when you're actually stepping into a new chapter, chaos has to unfold. That's the feminine energy. That's the uncertainty. That's the breaking down of what was once known. And so what happens is that you're literally maybe what does this mean? That it's this, you've probably heard other YouTubers talk about this, chaos, things falling apart, but it's okay, Francis, that's great, that's super motivational. I've heard many YouTubers talk about that, but what does it mean? What does it actually mean? It means at a tangible level, you might have your business go in a direction that you're not used to. Maybe a relationship that you've been in for a long time randomly starts acting all weird. It's almost like you can anticipate that maybe it's time to let this relationship go. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen to you, but sometimes in life, relationships come to an end, right? You've been in this relationship, but then now it's time to maybe let go of this friendship, or let go of this business partner, or to let go of this whatever, let go of this career. And then it's you'll start to notice that it's almost because here's the thing, right? Life is going to carry on. Whether our ego agrees with it or not, life is going to be in a continual state of change. Now, either you can learn to accept that change by listening, not listening to me, but by understanding at a deeper level that life is always going to change. You can learn to accept that now, or what's going to happen is the universe will force you to accept that. The universe will show you by taking certain things, this is the cold hard truth, and this is not a depressing truth, it's a very empowering truth if you can learn to accept this. What I've noticed is that unless you accept the impermanence of life, life will show you the impermanence of life. So when things fall apart, rather than resisting this change, what if you were to just accept that these things are changing? So if you lose that business partner and they randomly leave, or maybe you were talking to this person, they randomly ghost you, let them go. Let it fall apart. Let your ego be demolished by the universe. And know in your heart that it's just preparing you for the next stage. It's preparing you for the next level. That's all that's happening. All that's happening is that you're being prepared and you're being catapulted into the next level of your life. And if you resist that and you try to cling on to where you're at, you're going to notice that there's a lot of issues. There's a lot of things that go wrong. Whereas if you just like when I started to notice that my clients were falling away, I let them fall away. It wasn't an issue for me. And then the other clients that were meant to be in my life came into my life. It's like, or in other areas we can talk about, like, I mean, that's just the example that came into mind, but for it could be like what I noticed that when I had to drop out of school, for example, just over a year and a half ago, it's been almost 2 years at this point, I think, where I dropped out of school, which is crazy to think about. But I felt this intuitive nudge that I had to just leave school. And so it was like falling apart. I just let that happen. And recently I felt the need to move out of the place that I was living in before. So I just let that happen. And is it a coincidence that my business slowed down just a little bit as I was going through this transitionary process to move out to a new place? You see, the universal intelligence knows more than your mind. So let me ask you this. When life is falling apart and you get all scared because you're thinking things aren't working out, I want you to really think about this. How do you know that this situation happening to you, where maybe your business partner left you, or your romantic partner left you, or you randomly lose a career, or maybe just you choose intuitively to let go of it? It's like everything in your life is just falling apart, but you've been thinking about manifesting something 2 months ago. But you're so lost in things falling apart that you forgot you were trying to manifest this thing. But then how do you know that these things falling apart are not the manifestation you intended to receive just a month ago? How do you know? Can you really feel into that? If you start to really become conscious of the present moment, you'll start to notice that everything happens in divine timing, and that all the things you've been trying to manifest are actually unfolding every single moment. The universal intelligence is so powerful that it transcends what your logical mind can understand. That's God, that's the universe, that's the deeper, infinite intelligence that is connected with everything, that is everything. Some people call it God, but I don't want to use that word because sometimes people can get thrown off. But it's almost like it's a universal intelligence that, like, you don't have to, I don't want you to believe me. I want you to be so conscious that you actually notice that things falling apart may actually be literally bringing you to the thing that you're trying to manifest. So the point is, sometimes life is going to ask you to slow down, and just trust that. When I learned to trust that life is trying to make me just chill out for a little bit, bro, just relax, things work out. So just trust that process, you know what I mean? Just learn to enjoy the fact that life will sometimes slow down. Like, if you could just accept that, what you'll notice is that you don't actually have to fight it. And then when you don't actually fight it, what's gonna happen is that you're gonna start to notice that you can enjoy those moments of life. Because when I'm hustling and I'm focusing, I'm not grateful, right? You ever notice when you're taking lots of action, striving for the goal, sometimes we can forget to be grateful. We can forget to reap the rewards for all the work we've put in, to eat the fruit, to actually like harvest the fruit that you actually planted a couple months back. But you might not be seeing that the plant is actually expanding right now, and it's part of the manifestation process. So trust when life is slowing down, and what's going to happen is that you're going to feel much better in the process, and you're going to become a much more powerful vessel and container to then manifest at a much more powerful rate, because you have a integrated feminine that's going to allow you to have a more powerful masculine, have stronger intentions, and manifest the life that you really want to live. So that's all I have for this video. Once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, hit the link that's in the description box of this video to apply for a free consultation. Also have the free guided meditation down below as well. Have yourself a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.